Hello, everyone. I'm gonna share. Hello. I'm gonna share a link. Please, if anyone hasn't yet registered, please go through this link and register yourself for the event so we know who is attending. So I see there is only one viewer for now. So it's almost midnight in my place, just an hour before midnight. So, yeah. So, okay, 23 viewers. That's good. So I shared a link in the chat. Please, if you can register yourself through the link, um, that would be great. Thank you. And please let me know if you can hear my voice well. Say, leave something in the chat if you can hear me well. Okay. Thank you. Great. Yeah, we're gonna wait a couple more minutes until people join. Okay. So, yeah. Until then, I'm gonna tell you more about what we're gonna do today. So for today's session, we'll be exploring Microsoft's Excel spreadsheet application. This application is very powerful. Probably you've used it in your life, at school or at work. I personally used it at school when I was doing my courseworks, but I used only subset of its features. Actually, it's very, very powerful because it comes with many types of formulas that you can use in calculations, in analyzing data, or in forecasting. Also, we can do programmatic procedures in Excel. So Excel comes with support for Visual Basic language. For those of you who haven't heard about Visual Basic, it's also a high-level language, similar to Java, for example. Obviously, syntax is different. We'll also see how it's different syntax-wise. And yeah, we'll not be doing like too much complicated or sophisticated calculations. So we'll be just exploring a few of the macros that we can use to analyze data, to clean data, to process data, for example. Yeah, I said macros because this is exactly what it's called in Excel. The programmatic procedures that we are going to write, they're called macros. I don't know why they call it this way, macro. They could have called it something more uh, um, like procedures or something like that. But they call it macros, some fancy name. Yeah. Jack is asking, will the things we learn here transfer to other common spreadsheet applications, or is this exclusive to Excel? I think it's exclusive to Office application. So Visual Basic is supported across all Office applications. It's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, I think. So for other spreadsheet applications uh, on Linux, for example, I'm not really sure if they support macros at all. So I would say today's session is exclusively for Excel. We need to do some other additional research to understand if macros are supported actually in other spreadsheet applications on applications which are not Microsoft, right? And what's the spreadsheet application you use on Linux, for example? Was it OpenOffice, right? If it's OpenOffice, then probably they have some level of compatibility. Okay, I think we can start, right? So I'm gonna start sharing my screen. So please let me know what kind of operating system you're using. Uh, uh, is it Mac, or Linux, or Windows? Please let me know in the comments. I personally use Mac. So I have Mac on my machine, and I have Office, specifically Excel, that runs on Mac. Yeah, are are you ready for launching Excel? Is Excel installed on your machines, everyone? Or do you need to make additional setup? Windows, okay. Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Who has Linux? Who's running on Linux? Okay. Yeah, I think I can launch Excel spreadsheet, and we can start looking at macros. Okay, let me share my screen. So okay. So I'm sharing so I launched Microsoft Excel. So I called my spreadsheet file as Global Hackwick Workspace. Call it whatever you like. Can you all see the screen? Yeah. So Okay. Right. Yeah. So before we actually start working with macros, I highly suggest that you have this developer tab enabled. Make sure that you enable it. So um, so as you see, we have home, insert, draw, right? And then we have also developer. By default, it's disabled, but I recommend it to enable before we start writing macros for Excel. So um, so how to enable it? So in Excel, it depends on if you're running Mac or on Windows. For example, on Mac, I can show you that you go to Excel menu, and then uh, you type you select preferences. Okay. And under preferences, you select ribbon and toolbar. So the next would be ribbon and toolbar. And customize ribbon. Customize ribbon, and then you choose check developer. So when you follow this, you will see that developer tab shows up at the top. Okay. So make sure that you can see that developer tab that you see on my screen. So yeah, leave a comment if you can enable developer tab now. So for today's session, user Sandra is asking how to download Microsoft Word for macOS system. So for today's session, we use Excel, so we're not using Word. So for Word, maybe you need to go to Microsoft's website, I think. I personally downloaded from Mac App Store. So Microsoft also distributes the Office using App Store, so that's how I downloaded. Okay. So I'm gonna paste this in the chat. So this is for macOS to enable developer tab on macOS. On Windows should be similar, I believe. Okay, I'm gonna remove it for now. So first macro that we're gonna write is about just we want to start from easy macro. Okay, so we want to start by making sure that some text appears on this cell. So Excel is organized as cells, as you know, and these are called rows, right? And the uh, top is called columns. So whenever you refer to certain cell on Excel file, usually say certain row and certain column. Okay, so as you see here, it says B5, right? That means row column B and row 5. So that's how I will locate our cell. So now let's say we have this cell, right? And we want to write macro on it. So use we put a button. So as you see, there's a button. So I'm naming the button as world. Right, hello world. So what does this button do? What this button does is that uh, it displays text on this cell, okay, on this A1 cell. So when we click, it does nothing useful now. As you see, uh, it, actually you don't see on my screen on screen share, but it actually pops up message saying that um, uh, it says no macro is enabled now because we need to write that macro. So the way to write is just right click this button and then choose assign macro, and then you from the window that pops up you select new, and you'll be uh, uh, you will be presented uh, with a with visual with a macro editor. So I'm gonna show you how it looks like in a second. Okay. Let me share that screen with you, because screen share doesn't show all the screens that I'm using. Share screen. Okay, so this kind of editor should pop up. It's included in Microsoft Excel, and so we should be getting this editor when we start adding macros. So the question, does Google Sheet on web supports these features? I'm not really sure if Google sheet supports it, because it might be very limited, because macros are a bit like heavyweight, right? They do like heavy duty tasks. Even if you go and open Microsoft Excel online, because Microsoft also distributes the Excel on the web, right? That does not support macros. So they ask you to use desktop version of Microsoft Excel. So as you see, just get rid of this procedure. So this is the procedure that we have just written. So this I wrote this range A1 value and assign hello world to this A1 cell, and make sure that this hello world is assigned to value property of this cell. Okay. And then we can save this. So we need to make sure that our Excel file is saved as macro enabled. Okay. So as you see, so I saved. I'm closing this. I'm gonna switch to my Excel screen. Workspace. Here we go. Now when I click, as you see, it wrote hello world to this cell A1, right? This cell. Let's try again. When you click on it, so it shows hello world on the cell. You see? So basically, you can click on this button as many times as you like, but it keeps writing hello world. You can move the button if you want anywhere in this spreadsheet. It's just flexible, right? We can say this hello world macro, right? And we can create another button here. Button. So for next for next macro, we're gonna write we're gonna write um, a small like application which swaps the values. Okay. So we added a button here, and now okay. So we're gonna again open our spreadsheet. I mean, open our editor. So to open, we need to go and right click and click assign macro and edit. Okay. So I'm trying to display the Visual Basic editor. Just a second. So we have here, just rename it. Swap numbers, right? Let's say we have number 25 and 33, right here. So we want so when we click this button, we want this 25 and 33 to be swapped, right? So how do we do that? So we can click this button, swap numbers, and assign macro. And write macro. So I'm gonna stop sharing this screen and then open macro screen in a moment. Share. So as you see, this button 3-click here is where the procedure is. So this is the procedure that we have written just moments ago. Hello world, right? So now we need this. We need to write this procedure. So we're declaring temporary variable as double, and here we need to define the cells. So in our case, it was so it's A9 and B9. Okay. Okay, it's so read value. So what I'm doing here is read value from this cell A9 and assign it to temp, and also read from B9 and assign it to A9 cell, and then take the temporary variable value that we stored and assign it back to B9. So values are swapped, right? So we save, and then we switch to our spreadsheet. Share screen, workspace. Okay. So as you see, we have that same button and those two numbers, right? So we can call them like 43, anything we want. And when we click on this, as you see, it's swapped. Those values are swapping. 43, 65, and 65, 43. So this is a very simple macro again. So let me check the comments. Google Sheets can accomplish similar programmatic behavior with Google Apps scripts. Okay. Yeah. I haven't used Google Apps script, but I need to check. Let me actually check it. Let's check it together. So let me open my browser. Yeah. Google App Scripts. Yeah, okay. It's a scripting platform developed by Google. Right. Build web apps and automate tasks with Google App Scripts. Okay, I see. So you start scripting and add custom menu. Okay. Code Labs. So I believe we type this. It's right in here. Okay. So syntax is similar. Okay, we do something. Libraries, services. Okay, yeah, yeah, makes sense. Has anyone used actually? So I'm just showing you my browser page. So this is app script, and which I just launched. So okay, I didn't know about the app script before. Now, yeah, it looks reasonable. So I think it gives the functionality of Visual Basic, right? In this case, scripts are written on using Google's own scripting language, I think. Okay, interesting. So I'm gonna stop sharing this and we switch to back to Excel. Okay. Screen share. Okay. Yeah. So this is how far we went, and now let's do something more interesting. So let's create a page on our workspace where we can sort the data, right? Sort. data, we call it sort data. So oftentimes you're given unprocessed data that's unsorted, right? Let's say you have a list of uh, mm, users, right? And they have their personal information submitted uh, by them, and that information is their age, right? So let's say they have age of uh, suppose this is the ages of users, right? Uh, and we want to sort. So as you see, this data is unprocessed, right? So it's not sorted. So it's in random order. So so for this task, we want to write a macro which sorts this data. Yeah, obviously we can do Excel's own sorting. We can use Excel's own sorting mechanism, but to make things interesting, we create sort button. Okay, I added new button. So that sort 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 data. So when we click on this button, we want this data to be sorted. Okay. Right. So for now, it does nothing, but we want it to be sorted using macros. So in order to create a macro, I just right click and I type select assign macro and then new and when I click new, I type a new I assign a new macro for this button. So let me show you my screen where the macro editor is presented. So um, so here again another macro. I just added. So as you see, I'm trying to sort the input we just inserted. So that input is from A1 cell to A12, right? So as you see, I'm just writing current range, current region of A1 cell. So and I iterate through this region. So that region contains list of cells, right? And I iterate until I reach the number of cells in that region. And so I'm using here kind of bubble sort to sort the numbers, and I swap the numbers when I see the previous one is less than then when I compare two numbers, so I swap it as we do in bubble sort algorithm, right? Um, and so this is what this swap is doing. So we've already seen how swap works in this procedure, right? So we're using the same logic here. So let me know if this is clear to you, if this procedure is clear. So we may need to do some adjustment here because actually we don't have to, because we're just showing the region as taking the current region, and yeah, and we can save it. So this is a sorting algorithm, as we know. So this sorts input in ascending order. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions in the chat, because this is a different. This is actually Visual Basic. So as you see, this is declaration. This is how they declare the variables, right? With dim, and so we're declaring 1, 2, 3, and 4 variables here. So we need I and j variables because we want to do quadratic search, right? Which, I mean, the time complexity of this bubble sort will be quadratic. For each number we want to compare, I mean, for each element in the list, we want to run loop, right? So that means we'll be doing like n squared operations in the worst case. So yeah, so for I, yes, we have one for loop and we have nested for loop here. So that means we'll be essentially doing a quadratic time complexity sorting here. Yeah. So if no questions, I can switch to Excel spreadsheet screen. Okay, so we saved this and I'm gonna stop it and share the Excel part. So it's okay. So now we have a button ready, right? So our data is not sorted yet. Let's click the button. Boom, it's sorted. You see? So clicking again doesn't it's already sorted, so we don't see the effect. But if we want to sort again, like see if it's sorting indeed, so we can just change some data here, scramble this little bit. 55, 5, 6, right? Sorting data, sorting. Okay, so this is how it works. I want to show you something else. So before, so now I want to sort in descending order. Let's see if it works. Yep, so now it's sorted in descending order. How did I do that? So let me show you what I did in the Excel. I mean in the macro. Okay, share. So as you see in the macro, what I did is I just flipped the greater. So it was like this. So it was it was sorting in ascending order, right? Collecting less smaller numbers to left side and larger numbers to the right side. But when we flip it to this, it does the opposite. It collects the large numbers to the left, but smaller to the right. Okay. So yeah, this is how we did it. Right. Yeah. So this is basically how macros work. So let's do a couple more examples. So we see. So for the next example, I want to show you how to process data, how to clean data, for example, using macros. So suppose you received a list of uh, uh, let's create a sheet, a clean a sheet called clean data. So let's suppose that you received a list of numbers, but they're not I mean, they're not distributed evenly across the cells. For example, 5, 4, 65. Let's change this to something. Yeah. Again, 5, 2, 7, 9. Right. So as you see, this number, this list contains empty cells here. So we want to get rid of those empty cells. So how do we do that? So again, we create a button here. we call our button delete empty cells. Okay, so let me remove this for a moment. So I'm gonna share my Excel screen. Yep. So yeah, so I created this list, right? And so this list has empty cells here, right? So we want to get rid of these cells, empty cells, and then presenting these numbers without a break, without these breaks, okay? So so I'm gonna click on this button and remove empty cells, right? So when we click on this button, so it should remove the empty cells in the spreadsheet. Okay, basically we want to see something like 43, 7, 5, and etc. So all these intermediates, empty cells will be removed. So it will be, in other words, it will be cleaned, right? So again, we add macro. I'm gonna create a new macro here. Okay, so we have 12 rows, right? Okay, before I show you, before we switch to macros editor, so I see red cat 987 tried and it worked for that person. Congratulations. Macros are a bit tricky subject because it may require a little bit of an attention. So if it works for you, congratulations. So yeah, great. So I'm writing procedure here with empty cells range. J1. So if we move our data here, then we save, and let's see. Hmm. It didn't remove the blank cells for some reason. Let me investigate why it didn't. Yeah, my procedure failed. Counter. Now it did, okay. I see. So, yeah. So as you see, so now macro worked correctly. So it removed empty cells. So I can show you the actual code. So let me share screen where I'm where I have the procedure written. So, as you see this part, so I'm declaring a variable counter, and I'm iterating. I'm writing for loop and iterating from cell from row 1 to row 12. And I have to say in Excel, rows and columns, they start from 1, not from 0. So I think it makes a bit confusing because, for example, in other programming languages, we start indexes from 0, zero-based indexing. But it's not the case in macros. So I check if the cell value in this cell from I to 1 is empty. Then I basically take that value and assign it to the neighboring cell, and then I increment the counter. So counter is needed to take care of empty cells. So that's why I introduced counter here. So yeah, so let's go back to our Excel screen, workspace. We go. Yeah. So now we cleaned data. We removed some of the empty rows in between. You see, so macros are useful to process data, also like to clean the data. So the next thing I want to show is Next thing I want to show is about reversing the string. So let's say we have data, reverse string, right? So we have some string here. Let's say hello world or something, and we want to reverse it like something like DL or R or W. So world will be reversed like this, right? World, and hello will be OLLEH, something like this, right? So how do we do that? So using macros. So again, we bring a button here, reverse string. I'm calling it reverse string button, and call it reverse string. Reverse string. So we assign a new macro for it. So I just wrote my macro behind the scenes, okay, for this button. And so let me close this. And yeah, so it basically reversed the string, hello world, reverse again. So we keep, you see, so it's flipping. So it's the string we had, and this is the reversed version. So I'm going to show you how I did it. Let me show you the script. Switching screens again. Okay. So this is the script I just added. So we want to make sure that the active cell is used, because whenever we highlight the cell, so that is regarded as an active cell, and we don't want that string reversal to work with cells which contain formulas, okay? And here basically I'm taking the text from the active cell and assigning it to one variable. And for the new variable, I am just, it's still empty. And then here, this for loop does the actual reversal, okay? So I keep building, I keep adding the new character to this as new variable, and so it contains the reversed string. And then finally, I'm assigning it to the active cell's value, the value property. So this is how reversal works. So as you see, macros are they are written as Visual Basic procedures. Let's stop it. And I'm going to start sharing my Excel spreadsheet again. So yeah. The reverse, this is how it works. If you take your if you make it passive, then it doesn't work. We need to highlight the cell and then it works, okay? Because in the code we indicated that it works only with highlighted cell. Okay, and for the final task, I wanted to show you a case where we want to separate strings, okay? Let's say strings. Let's say we have data given in this format, right? Name of the people, uh, their full name, like including first and last names, right? And we want to separate it to first and last names. How do we do that? So again, we can use a macro to accomplish this task. So we bring button separate names. I'm calling it separate string. So we have here name, first name and last name. They're separated by comma, as you see. So actually this is last name part. Okay, this is comma, and then first name comes. So basically you want like Alice here to be first name and Patterson as a last name. So this is what we want to accomplish. Okay. So we need to assign a macro. Okay. Mm. So I'm writing the macro behind the scenes now. Uh, so So I included code for this button and I saved it. So now when I click on the separate string, as you see, first name and last names are separated into separate columns. So this button also has macro assigned behind the scenes, and this is what it does. This is how we process another set of data. So yeah, I think this is yeah. Yeah, great. Ratcat987. Yeah, great that it's working for you. It's good to hear. I encourage people to do research on macros after this session and explore independently, because this is how I learned. So I was using various tutorials, learning and running the macros on my Excel to understand. And yeah, so that being said, so this is the some of the highlights I wanted to show you about Excel macros and how we use them to to actually process, analyze our data that we have. So yeah, this is how macros work in a nutshell. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me now. Otherwise, we can wrap up the session here, and yeah, I can hang around for another couple of minutes if you have questions. So what do you think of the macros? Anyone? Do you like them, or would you prefer to use some other solutions for data analysis? Anyone has an idea? Yeah, they are quite fun. The Visual Basic syntax is not so friendly, I would say. It's verbose, right? So it contains lots of keywords that we have to use when declaring variable, for example. Yeah, Jack is asking, what's your favorite macro you've ever used? Well, I don't have favorite, I think. I haven't used macros extensively in my projects. Just I used in very limited situations, so I cannot show I cannot show any specific macro to be my favorite. They are all fine. I think if they do their job well, then I think, yeah. The thing I don't appreciate is like when macros fail, right? We need to put the debug points and then debug it and try to understand why they fail. So yeah, macros actually also support debugging, so we can put debug points, and yeah, so and troubleshoot the issue just like we troubleshoot with uh, other like high-level programming languages like Java, for example. So Jack is asking, what about most useful? I think the most useful one I had was about calculating like mode, median, and mean. So in statistics, you have those three famous averages, right? Mode, median, and mean. Um, so once I used a macro which calculated these three averages, and that was quite useful. It's interesting to learn what code was driving this macro. Yeah. And what about you, Jack? What's your favorite? Okay, your first time. Got it. Um, yeah, yeah. I encourage you hackers to explore macros further on your own time, independently. So this is what we've done is just scratch on the surface, right? It's very like limited thing we've done, and I encourage people to actually explore macros by themselves further and develop interesting uh, macros, and yeah, make make Excel operations very easy. Excel provides actually um, like sorting facilities. For example, we can sort by one field, by many fields, for example. But when we write our own macro for sorting, for example, for cleaning data, um, or for analyzing data, right? It's about calculating mode, median, mean. Then I think it gives us additional power on that, because now we can program Excel in any way we want using macros, right? We're not limited by preset uh, features that ship with the software, so we can create our own. This that gives us developers additional power, I would say. Okay, yeah. I think at this time I would like to conclude the wrap up the session, and I would like to say thank you for everyone who attended this session and at least learned what macros are, and um, had a feeling of how they look like. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thanks for attending, everyone. It was nice talking to you in this session, and yeah, and enjoy the rest of your day or night or evening, and I'll see you next time. I'm gonna end the broadcast now. Okay, bye bye.